Ladies and gentlemen, dear delegates, kindly settle down. We will begin the program shortly.
Good morning. Excellencies, the distinguished colleagues. I hope you've been able to have a fairly good rest, or at least overcome your jet lag in some cases. So I would now like to call to order the high-level segment of our conference with the theme, Breaking New Grounds Towards a Strategic Plan of Action for Middle-Income Countries. And to begin to proceed our high-level panel discussion or general debate, we will have two speakers to set the tone of our discussion this morning. And to begin our high-level panel discussion, I would like to give the floor to Mr. David McLachlan-Carr, the Regional Director for Asia Pacific of the UN Development Coordination Office. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Excellencies. A very good morning to everybody, colleagues from the Philippines government, Mr. Secretary, the Ambassador, Maria Teresa, my colleagues, Ibu Amida, of course, the Executive Secretary at ESCAP, and our resident coordinators who are here, and colleagues from the UN system. It's a profound honor to join you at this high-level ministerial conference, a defining moment in our collective effort to reframe development cooperation for middle-income countries. Allow me once again to express, on behalf of the United Nations Development Coordination Office, our deep appreciation to the government of the Philippines, the like-minded group of middle-income countries, and all partners for advancing this really vital agenda. This conference agenda is not only timely, I think it's absolutely essential to move the needle on global development. And it reaffirms that middle-income countries, in all of their diversity, must be at the center of a more inclusive, resilient, and sustainable global future. On resilience, innovation, debt sustainability, green and digital transitions, inter-country-led frameworks, reflecting, of course, the vital principle of national ownership. Secondly, innovative financing mobilization under the leadership of resident coordinators is accompanying the launch of the cooperation frameworks. And across the region, we are facilitating access to sustainable financing instruments aligned to countries' own strategies and aspirations, including vital work with international financial architecture. Thirdly, promoting digital inclusion and innovation. We are supporting member state-led initiatives to bridge digital divides through capacity building and the provision of open digital solutions. Fourthly, we're working through regional cooperation, including the work with the economic commissions. And under MIC-led leadership, the UN is committed to strengthening MIC-driven regional platforms through the prism of South-South cooperation that's mentioned yesterday. And these networks come countries with other middle-income countries, best practices, and create a network of solutions exchange for accelerated development. So how do we advance the strategic plan of action together? As member states move forward with the elaboration of the strategic plan of action, the United Nations stands ready to accompany this journey in a spirit of partnership and respect for national leadership. We are prepared to facilitate inclusive consultations across regions and across sectors, provide policy and technical advice on financing, innovation, resilience, digital transformation where requested, but also through the 6 transitions. Support the identification of best practices. Knowledge sharing is absolutely vital, and capacity development opportunities that align with the strategic plan of action's emerging priorities, linking countries together, but also at the regional level with the Economic Commission, but also globally into a global council of driven solutions, and a relentless focus on accelerating the achievement of the 2030 Agenda. The Strategic Plan of Action represents a unique opportunity to reshape the development landscape for middle-income countries, not just for today, but for generations to come. Let me conclude by saying that we have a shared vision and a collective responsibility as the United Nations. Excellencies, this high-level conference sends a powerful message. Middle-income countries are not a transitional category. They are critical engines of sustainable development, innovation, and global stability. The United Nations, through its repositioned development system under the leadership of empowered resident coordinators, is committed to being your strategic enabler, supporting your leadership, amplifying your initiatives, and accompanying your pathways towards sustainable development. We recognise that real progress will be made not through mandates or declarations, but real work on the ground at the country level through these enduring partnerships that will translate ambition into action and vision into results. Let us move forward together with renewed commitment, shared responsibility, and collective determination to realise the promise of a strategic plan of action that leaves no country or no person behind. I thank you, Mr. Secretary and the panel, for your attention.
I wish to thank Mr. McLaughlin-Carr for progress on our SDGs across the region. As you know, UNDCO's work promotes stronger collaboration and more effective development solutions tailored to the unique needs of countries. So I thank him again. I now wish to give the floor to Ms. Fatou Haidara, the Deputy to the Director General and Managing Director of the Directorate of Global Partnerships and External Relations of UNIDO.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, dear colleagues of the UN system, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. As we start the second day of the conference, I would like to congratulate the organizers and participants for a very successful first day, and to reiterate our appreciation to the government of the Philippines for hosting us. In particular, I would like to acknowledge once more the great collaboration with the like-minded group of FOMIX and all the partners working with us to shape a common vision for sustainable and inclusive development. Excellencies, mix are diverse, underscore the need for a tailor-made policy to advance frameworks. We have to take into account the currently shifting development landscape, where the private sector and private investment, local and foreign, have a critical role to play. The fact that we are gathered here in Manila, across regions, mandates, and perspectives, is a powerful affirmation of our shared belief in the value of multilateral cooperation and partnerships. This conference sends a clear message. Global challenges require global partnerships, and we will meet these challenges together. At UNIDO, advocating for a more inclusive architecture, one that makes at the center of global decision-making, ways of intervention in support of middle-income countries include policy advice and capacity building, green transition for industries, sustainable energy access and practices, investment and technology promotion, and digital transformation and innovation. As we move towards more actionable commitments, let me highlight a few strategic initiatives where UNIDO is making a tangible difference in middle-income countries. We deliver targeted industrial policy advice through our Global Industrial Policy Advice Facility in 13 middle-income countries to drive inclusive and sustainable industrial transformation. Beyond global and regional initiatives, UNIDO is significantly expanded its country-level support in middle-income countries. Some concrete examples include contributing to Albania's National Strategy for Development and European Integration 2030, co-designing Jordan's artificial intelligence strategy with EU partnership, developing Morocco's industrial decarbonization roadmap, and capacity building and policy advice for Ukraine's future industrial development strategy. Another initiative is Green Hydrogen Strategy and Partnerships. This is under the Global Program for Hydrogen in Industry. UNIDO is take. We also launched the Global Partnership for Hydrogen Application in Industry in Egypt and in Morocco of green hydrogen, Namibia and Tunisia. In Latin America and the Caribbean, we launched the SDG 9 Accelerator Platform for 25 countries. The SDG 9 Accelerator builds network among countries. Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, our strategic framework for partnering with middle-income countries and its work plan will greatly benefit from the political declaration of this conference. Productive capacity development will remain a cornerstone of our integrated engagement. Advisory services, tailored investment mobilization, and technology assistance to accelerate economic diversification and the green industrial transition. Through this strategic approach, we will support middle-income countries to adopt advanced manufacturing and digital solutions, upgrade value chains, and position their industries for both green and digital transformation. As we move forward, let us keep in mind three fundamental points. First, middle-income countries require tailored, context-specific solutions that account for their diverse realities, from small island economies facing climate fragility to emerging industrial powers needing innovation ecosystems. Second, sustained impact requires alignment across sectors and institutions. Progress is greatest when policy, investment, education, and industry work in synergy, anchored in national leadership. Third, middle-income countries are not just recipients of support. They are catalysts of global progress. Their innovation, technical know-how, and development cooperation with other countries are invaluable assets in the global push to achieve the SDGs. So the question before us is not whether MICs still need support, it is by their strength and close remaining gaps. UNIDO is committed to join the efforts towards mixed sustained economic growth and industrial transformation. I thank you.
I thank the Deputy Director General for her very thoughtful remarks and reflections. We are very grateful for the perspectives that you have shared across diverse national contexts, inclusive development in middle-income countries. So thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our high-level panel segment, and we high-level panel presentations. We will now proceed to the high-level segment itself to hear the national statements from the delegates around the table, members of the like-minded group for middle-income countries, as well as member states from the Asia-Pacific region as observers, and statements from participating UN agencies. Before we begin, I would just like to urge our speakers if they could kindly seek to limit their remarks to 3 minutes or 3 to 4 minutes and not beyond 4 minutes, because we have a fairly long list of speakers, and I'd like to provide each speaker with the opportunity to say whatever they wish to say and have enough time to do so. So this is just to urge speakers to not go beyond 4 minutes, if you can. Now I'd like to open the floor to the list of speakers, and the first speaker on my list is Honorable Arsenio Balisacan, the Secretary of the Department of Economy, Planning, and Development of the Philippines.
Thank you, Chair. Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, good morning. Allow me once again to express the Philippines' deep honor in hosting the high-level ministerial conference and in soon assuming the church and development partners for their active engagement and invaluable contributions to the success of this conference. Today, as we adopt the Manila Declaration, or Makati Declaration, we affirm our shared experiences, challenges, and aspirations as middle-income countries. Despite our diversity, we confront common obstacles shaped by shifting geopolitical landscapes and global economic structures. Challenges such as structural inequality, subdued productivity growth, mounting external debt burdens, heightened exposure to climate-related and disaster-induced economic losses. At the same time, the Philippines recognizes that middle-income countries are vital engines of global growth, innovation, and stability. Yet, we face a unique predicament. While many of us no longer qualify for traditional development assistance, we continue to grapple with complex, interwoven, and unresolved structural challenges. In this context, the Philippines emphasizes the urgent need for deliberate, sustained reforms and enhanced international cooperation to help MICs avoid stagnation and transition successfully to high-income status, enabling economic dynamism and shared prosperity. As we chart new directions toward the strategic plan of action for middle-income countries, the Philippines joins the call for more responsive and equitable global financing architecture, one that ensures fairer access to development finance, improved debt sustainability mechanisms, and context-specific support for capacity building and technology transfer. The Philippines likewise supports stronger, tailored engagement by the United Nations Development System. Now more than ever, middle-income countries need support that goes beyond income-based metrics, support that prioritizes efficient structural transformation, resilience, and equity, and that responds meaningfully to its country's specific development trajectory. Looking ahead, the Philippines is fully committed to advancing the outcomes of this conference throughout its chairmanship. We'll work to ensure that our shared priorities are translated into tangible actions. We are confident that through continued dialogue and collective leadership, middle-income countries can usher a new era of global partnership, one rooted in sustainable progress, genuine inclusion, and long-term development. Thank you.
I thank the Secretary for his remarks. I now wish to give the floor to His Excellency Aramanta Christiawan Nasir, Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia, to be followed by Thailand.
Thank you, Honorable Secretary Manalo. Good morning, Excellencies, distinguished guests, delegates, colleagues. Chair, allow me to firstly congratulate the Republic of the Philippines for this important and timely initiative, and thank you for the warm hospitality extended to me and my delegation. Indonesia commends the like-minded group for middle-income countries under the leadership of Morocco for advancing our shared aspiration. Despite global volatility, Indonesia has remained steadfast in pursuing sustainable development. By 2024, as an MIC, Indonesia has achieved an average growth of around 5% for the last decade, reduce poverty to 8.57%, improve income distribution, and cover over 90% of our population with a national health insurance program, as well as achieving a 90 billion digital economy with 10 unicorn startups. These outcomes were the result of deep reform, prudent financial management, and a firm political commitment to integrating the SDGs into our national development policies. As highlighted by the speakers this morning, a strong national industrial policy and global partnership were also key. But equality and partnership, as well as adherence to a rule-based international order and a strong multilateral institutions. However, we are seeing a fast-changing global environment. Entering uncharted waters, today the backdrop for MIC development includes intensified great power competition, solidarity, weak multilateral institutions, and efforts by some to dismantle them. If we in the MIC fail to stop this slide, over 100 countries accounting for around 75% of the global population will be caught in the middle income trap with continued high level of inequalities, persistent poverties, low growth, and unsustainable external debt. It is therefore imperative future. It is in this context, allow me to highlight 3 points. First, we must build a concrete platform of collaboration among MICs to drive South-South cooperation, policy alignment, and enhance access to global financing, including through innovative and blended financing. Second, the multilateral system. Multilateral institution way of doing business is no longer sustainable. Multilateral institution must also better reflect the reality and aspiration of today's developing world. Only with a strong, rule-based multilateral system can MICs thrive. Third, we need to foster greater intra-trade amongst middle-income economies, who now contributes over 57% of the global GDP and must leverage this collective strength. Chair, middle-income countries are not economies in waiting. I share the view of the speaker this morning that MICs are engine of growth, hubs of innovations, and partners in building a just, sustainable, and must not be a passenger of uncertainty. MICs must be the pilot of a new inclusive global future.
I thank the Vice Minister for his remarks. I now wish to give the floor to His Excellency Chutintorn Kongsak, the Secretary to the Foreign Minister of Thailand, to be followed by Fiji.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, to engage in this important dialogue. We welcome the opportunity to exchange and share Thailand's experiences towards becoming a high-income economy and achieving sustainable development. We are living in a world that is experiencing global economic uncertainty, rising political tensions, and rapid technological change. In this challenging environment, middle-income countries like ours must rethink and recalibrate our strategies to navigate these transformative forces. Thailand is laying the groundwork for a new engine of long-term economic growth and is preparing for a future shaped by human creativity and digital innovation. To achieve this goal, we believe there are 3 key priorities. First, Thailand underscores the need to accelerate structural reforms, diversify trade and investment, and deepen regional economic integration through multiple alignments. Amid current challenges, we must enhance our economic resilience to continue to support an open, predictable, and more inclusive global trading system where rules, not might, prevail. In this light, Thailand is also strongly determined to continuously elevate our standards and competitiveness along our journey for accession to the OECD. Second, Thailand is investing heavily in the infrastructure and ecosystem to support the industries of the future and enable a robust digital economy. We will place people at the center of all our efforts by strengthening human capacity to master AI, so our workforce will remain competitive and resilient. To do so, we must expand and upgrade our workforce and empower our human capital, and shift towards an inclusive and innovation-driven growth. With a rich cultural capital, a robust startup system, and streamlining regulations to foster entrepreneurship. Micro, small, and medium enterprises in particular are an integral part of this ecosystem, currently contributing over 35% of our GDP. Third and finally, the right financing is key. Yet MICs often find themselves stuck in a financial blind spot. Thailand joins the global call for a more inclusive and equitable international financial system that works for all. Going forward, we must demonstrate that MICs are drivers of global growth through work on a development agenda that is people-centered and resilient. The upcoming 4th International Conference on Financing for Development is an important opportunity towards this goal and will help strengthen global cooperation and realize our shared aspirations. We must also align our efforts in various fora so our voices are heard. As chair of the Asia Cooperation Dialogue, or ACD, Thailand also looks forward to engaging other groupings in the upcoming ACD. So far, we can harness the expertise of the UN system to positive effect. Thank you very much.
I thank the Secretary for his important remarks. I now wish to give the floor to Her Excellency Seta Nadakui Tabuki, the Permanent Secretary for Women, Children, and Social Protection of Fiji, to be followed by Kingdom of Morocco.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair, Excellencies, all protocols observed. It is an honor for Fiji to address this high-level conference of middle-income countries and is significant as we mark the 80th anniversary of the founding of the United Nations and continue the collective discussion on how MICs can accelerate sustainable development in a rapidly evolving global environment. Ladies and gentlemen, Fiji is at a pivotal moment in its development journey. As a middle-income country, we must accelerate sustainable growth while ensuring that our most vulnerable, including children, persons with disabilities, survivors of domestic violence, and older persons, are protected and supported. Today, I highlight Fiji's strategic approach and the role of international cooperation in building a resilient and inclusive future. We've got some key challenges that I wanted to highlight this morning. Of course, the climate change impact, rising sea levels, and extreme weather threaten coastal communities. Therefore, agriculture and tourism are highly affected. Adaptation remains urgent and costly. Growing inequality and poverty. Disparities persist, especially in rural areas. Innovation opportunities, widening the gaps between urban and rural populations. Debt sustainability. Fiji has taken on significant debt to fund infrastructure and disaster recovery. Balancing economic resilience, family support is needed, and community-based interventions are needed to prevent harm and ensure safer environments. Addressing domestic violence, we strengthen the legal protections, expanding survivor support services such as counseling and shelters, and promoting gender equality remain vital to creating safer communities. Advancing disability inclusive policies, ensuring access to education and employment, and of course, health care for persons with disabilities. Supporting older persons. As Fiji's population ages, the need for comprehensive elderly care grows. Older persons face challenges in healthcare access, social inclusion, and financial security, requiring targeted policies and stronger community support systems. But Fiji is taking decisive steps to address these challenges, ladies and gentlemen. We are investing in climate-resilient infrastructure, strengthening renewable energy, sustainable urban planning, and adaptation measures. Also, we are enhancing the digital inclusion, expanding internet access and digital literacy programs, particularly in strengthening of social protection schemes to be gender responsive, and employment policies to promote resilience and inclusivity. Reforming child protection laws, prioritizing family-centered support models and prevention strategies over punitive policies. In terms of strengthening domestic violence prevention, we developed shelters and legal protections for survivors. Ensuring disability inclusion, improving infrastructure accessibility, promoting economic opportunities, and integrating disability rights into national policy. And of course, expanding elder care programs, enhancing healthcare services, financial support mechanisms, and fostering social inclusion for older persons through our community-driven initiatives and targeted government interventions. I would like to provide targeted financial assistance. We need concessional loans and grants for climate adaptation, social protection, and elderly care initiatives. We need the development partners to facilitate knowledge sharing, collaborating on global best practices in sustainability, child protection, disability rights, domestic violence prevention, and elderly care. We also need our development partners to support policy innovation, assist the government, enhancing access to climate finance and advancing adaptation strategies. Also, ensure social inclusion accountability, establishing minimum care standards, robust monitoring frameworks, and comprehensive support. Committed to sustainable development as outlined in our National Development Plan 2025 to 2029 and the vision for 2050. I would also like to add that Fiji is conscious of the vital role that our local civil society organizations, development partners, regional agencies, and community leaders have played in our progress. Our pledge to end violence against children, address domestic violence, champion disability rights, and support older persons reinforces our dedication to inclusive and just society. Through strategic policies and global cooperation, we will build a resilient, equitable, and sustainable future for all. Thank you.
See Mr. Abdullah Ben Meluk, the Director General for the Economic Diplomacy and Cultural Promotion, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, African Cooperation, and Moroccan expatriates. He will be followed by Armenia.
Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let me first congratulate the Philippines for assuming the chairmanship of the like-minded group on mix. I also would like to assure you of the full support and cooperation of Morocco and wish you every success. I also would like to reiterate our deep gratitude to the governments and people of the Philippines for their exceptional hospitality and warm welcome. Building on the remarks made previously by the Moroccan delegation, I would like to stress on key points that deserve urgent action as we advocate for international cooperation that better reflects the mixed interest. The issue of financing remains critical. The financing needs of mix to address the SDGs challenges are immense, yet our countries are often excluded from access to concessional financing due to our status as middle-income country. It is time to expand eligibility for concessional financing and find appropriate solution to sovereign debt problems based on criteria that reflect mixed realities and challenges. Addressing the financial needs of mix requires also the reform of the international financial architecture to be more inclusive ambition. Therefore, mix are called upon more than ever to invest more in innovation, green industry, digital technology, and human capital to foster resilient economic transformation. Escaping the middle income trap requires, on the other hand, an international environment conducive to development with fairer international trade. Coherence is also necessary to enhance our interaction with the UN development system and the international and regional financial institutions, which play a key role in supporting mix to overcome the middle income trap. The support of these institutions is very crucial as we are occurred in empowering transitions, expanding opportunities, and shaping our collective future. In this regard, we believe that this plan is expected to culminate our political advocacy and cooperation with the UN system to, first, address vulnerabilities linked to structural transformations, debt risks, and external shocks. Second, and preserving development gains. Third, promote social development and climate resilience, expand by investing in digital literacy infrastructure, cybersecurity, and innovation ecosystem, enabling mix to fully participate in and shape global knowledge economy. Fifth, build inclusive global partnerships that recognize mix not merely as beneficiaries, but as essential partners in shaping global development solutions. Such partnerships must focus on inclusive and fair access to financing, technology transfer, trade opportunities, and capacity building. Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we should work toward expanding the membership of our group. I would like to take this opportunity to commend the countries who have chosen to participate in this ministerial conference. Last year, many African countries participated in ministerial conference. Morocco have hosted last February. I hope they will soon join our group to collectively advance our shared interests. Far beyond international development cooperation for a more prosperous and equitable future for all. Hence, this conference represents a pivotal milestone to achieve that vision. I thank you.
I thank the Director General for his remarks. I now wish to give the floor to His Excellent Cooperation of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Armenia, to be followed by Peru.
Honorable Secretary Enrique Manalo, distinguished speakers, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Armenia, His Excellency Arat Mirzoyan, let me express my profound appreciation to the government of Philippines for organizing this important meeting and the generous hospitality. We congratulate the Philippines on assuming the chairmanship of the group and pledge Armenia's full support. As one of the founding members of the like-minded group for MICs, Armenia highly values this intergovernmental platform in terms of deepening our cooperation and jointly promoting shared priorities of MICs. We believe it is crucial to build on the momentum of last year's high-level meeting in Rabat to ensure the continuity of our efforts to advance the agenda of the MICs in international fora. Classification of middle-income countries and disregard for their multidimensional challenges imposes a setback on their development path, creating the so-called middle-income trap. Armenia is currently classified as an upper middle-income country, but its national debt recently surpassed 13 billion, pushing the country's debt to GDP ratio to more than 53%. Given the complexity of Armenia's current challenges, influx of more than 115,000 forcibly displaced refugees from Nagorno-Karabakh, closed borders, restricted access to global markets, recurrence of natural disasters to limited resources towards the foreign debt service, while constraining access to concessional financing. In this context, we strongly advocate the development of a comprehensive set of measures, assessing the progress of countries that complement or go beyond gross domestic product building on the momentum of the Summit of the Future and the upcoming Fourth International Conference on Financing for Development. In the latter's context, it is important that MICs support the inclusion in the outcome document of Seville references to specific challenges of middle-income countries and respective solutions. Armenia is actively and vocally advocating for inclusive components such as policy and strategy development or organizational trainings, while overlooking critical areas like infrastructure building, technology transfer, and the strengthening of national capacities. Therefore, in the context of development cooperation, an important priority for MICs should be to emphasize capacity building and the inclusion of hard component in their programmatic cooperation with the UN agencies. Middle-income countries also grapple with the effects of climate change and environmental degradation, which requires strong policy. In this opportunity, I would like to also commend Philippines as a host of the Secretariat of the Loss and Damage Fund Board for its efforts towards capitalization and operationalization of the fund. As the host of the Biodiversity COP17, Armenia is closely following the current processes regarding the resource mobilization and other financial arrangements to achieve equity and balanced solutions for halting the climate change and environmental degradation, preserving and protecting our natural ecosystems and biodiversity for the future generations. Mr. Chair, Manila Declaration sets forward-looking and ambitious targets which can result in transformative changes on the ground. Armenia strongly supports the initiation of the process to develop the strategic program of action and its preliminary priorities with the engagement of all relevant stakeholders. In this regard, we call on the UN Development System, development partners, international financial institutions, and other stakeholders to join this initiative to find tailor-made, efficient solutions to the specific challenges of the MICs, not just on the paper, but in people's lives. Breaking new ground should be a call to action. In Armenia, we know that tangible progress happens when we invest in people and their dreams. I believe that our shared commitment must focus on building capacities, transferring technologies, and strengthening national systems. In conclusion, let me reiterate Armenia's readiness to engage constructively in the activities of the like-minded group for middle-income countries in the international fora. I thank you, Mr. Chair.
To give the floor to Her Excellency Cecilia Galarreta, the Special Envoy of the Minister for Foreign Affairs and non-resident ambassador to the Philippines of Peru, to be followed by the Dominican Republic.
Excellency Ambassador Enrique Manalo, Secretary for of the Philippines, Excellencies, distinguished heads of delegations, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to extend our sincere gratitude to the government of the Philippines for organizing this significant conference, offering us a valuable platform to exchange experiences on the challenges and opportunities facing middle-income countries in achieving the who, due to prior engagements, could not join us today as he would have greatly desired. This year marks the 51st anniversary of the diplomatic relations between Peru and the Philippines. Our countries share a deep and valued partnership, and we look forward to strengthening our political, economic, and cultural ties and advancing towards a strategic action plan for middle-income countries. The international context is complex, shaped by geopolitical instability, climate change, persistent poverty, and inequality factors that continue to affect the development of our nations. In this light, it is crucial to identify common priorities that we can collectively promote in multilateral forums of indicators that complement and go beyond gross domestic product. enabling a more comprehensive assessment of sustainable development. This will enhance the effectiveness of international cooperation by ensuring that efforts are strategically focused on the specific needs of middle-income countries, especially in areas such as technical assistance, technology transfer, and capacity building. We must also advocate to natural disasters and climate change. Additionally, it is vital that the development of artificialities should be reflected in a concrete action plan that coordinates the efforts of middle-income countries and reaffirm Peru's commitment to continuing our active engagement in this shared endeavor, with the firm belief that together we can build a prosperous and sustainable future for all. Thank you very much.
I thank the Special Envoy and Ambassador for the United Nations, to be followed by Jamaica.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Secretary Manalo, Excellency, and to the Government of the Philippines for graciously hosting us and coordinating this vital conference in partnership with the United Nations. As stated, middle-income countries represent 75% of global population, generate 33% of world GDP, and are home to 62% of its poor, making us essential to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Yet, our diversity in economic structures, social inclusion, and vulnerability to external shocks demands more nuanced approaches than GDP-based classification alone can provide. As emphasized in the Pact for the Future, we need multidimensional vulnerability index that captures the full spectrum of our challenges. The Dominican Republic, as both a middle-income country and a small island development state, faces climate vulnerabilities that GDP metrics simply cannot reflect. International cooperation has evolved significantly. Traditional ODA flows are transforming, creating an urgent need to strengthen South-South and triangular cooperation. These partnerships are crucial in addressing shared challenges like climate resilience, digital transformation, and inclusive growth. We must ensure that financial instruments designed to address disaster risk and development challenges reflect the principle of common but differentiated responsibility and respective capacities. Middle-income countries require tailored approaches that acknowledge our unique vulnerabilities while respecting our agency in shaping international financial architecture. The private sector's alignment with the SDGs presents tremendous opportunities. By embedding sustainability into business models, we can unlock investment potentials while ensuring growth benefits all citizens. In the Dominican Republic, we are strengthening institutional frameworks and public-private partnerships to channel resources toward climate adaptation and support micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. Excellencies, we strongly support the strategic plan of action for middle-income countries. Its implementation can bridge the gap between our aspirations and the resources needed to achieve them. By reconceptualizing development beyond GDP, enhancing South-South cooperation, and reforming financial institutions, we can create a more equitable international system that recognizes our unique challenges. The Dominican Republic remains committed to working with all partners to advance sustainable development that truly leaves no one behind. I thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I have to brush up on my digital innovation. Anyway, I thank the permanent representative for his, to be followed by by Namibia.
Thank you, Chair. Excellencies, allow me to convey Jamaica's deep appreciation to the government and people of the Philippines for their hospitality and generosity as hosts of this conference. I also take this opportunity to commend the Kingdom of Morocco for its leadership in steering the priorities of middle-income countries for the past 2 years. Breaking new ground for middle-income countries requires a strategic, targeted, and innovative approach to address our unique challenges and unlock untapped potential. As a small island developing state, which is also classified as a middle-income country, Jamaica recognizes the critical need to create an enabling environment and implement transformative measures to address the multidimensional vulnerability to climate change and exogenous shocks. At the national level, Jamaica has been leveraging its distinctive strengths to build economic resilience. At the macroeconomic level, Jamaica's debt to GDP ratio has been lowered. Jamaica's credit ratings are at the highest levels since our debt has been externally rated, signaling our enhanced credibility and fiscal strength based on global metrics. Our unemployment rate is at the lowest in our history. But despite these successes in our efforts to strengthen economic resilience, these achievements are insufficient to deliver strong economic growth and realize attainment of the SDGs. MICs are constrained by the inability to access concessionary funding and certain types of development assistance to fund critical development projects, especially for infrastructure, healthcare, and education. Furthermore, as we contend with natural disasters and exogenous shocks, we are forced in our recovery efforts to source funding at higher rates with shorter repayment terms, which inevitably contributes to the high debt burden and further contraction of our fiscal space. Invariably, breaking new ground in this current dispensation requires bold actions and urgent solutions. This would entail the creation of fiscal space by facilitating easier access to affordable, long-term financing for development, scaling up development finance, and tackling the high debt burden, while expanding contingency financing for countries in need and crowding in private sector support through PPPs. It is also imperative to create sustainable pathways to readily access funding for disaster risk reduction. The implementation of innovative financing mechanisms, financial inclusion, and improved access to concessional financing and to stimulate advancements on the SDGs. Chair, the middle-income track is a reality for countries like Jamaica. It is therefore essential that the international financial architecture becomes more flexible and inclusive and takes better account of the needs and priorities of each country and region. The calls for the reform of the international financial architecture must also include strengthening the voice and representation of developing countries in international economic decision-making, facilitating the implementation of innovative financing mechanisms, promoting financial inclusion, and improved access to concessional financing development assistance, climate finance, capacity building of each country and region. The use of vulnerability criteria that go beyond income thresholds provides a better appreciation of extent and systematic manner. We therefore welcome the implementation of the MVI as a metric for a more equitable and effective development cooperation framework for developing countries. And to this end, we look forward to the convening of the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development and anticipate that its outcome will not fall short on the expectation that it will frontally address systemic issues in the financial architecture, as well as the issue of debt distress. We welcome the strategic plan of action for MICS as a good step forward to facilitate a system-wide response plan that is inclusive and transformative for long-term sustainable growth and development in our countries. As we seek to develop robust infrastructure and the use of digital technology as drivers for economic growth, Jamaica sees merit in incorporating blockchain technology as a viable tool for middle-income countries to break new ground in our development journey. By leveraging its decentralized and transparent nature, blockchain can unlock new opportunities and revolutionize access to financial services. We stand ready to explore this mechanism while fully considering the associated risks to its implementation as we elaborate on the strategic program of action. In closing, Jamaica attaches significant importance to the partnerships, particularly the promotion of South-South and triangular cooperation, of effective cooperation for all as we work towards the attainment of Agenda 2030 and the SDGs. Jamaica will therefore continue to utilize our co-chairmanship of the SDG Stimulus Global Leaders Group and the Group of Friends on SDG Financing to champion the concerns of middle-income countries. This includes lobbying for the reform of the international financial architecture to stimulate innovative financing mechanisms that support financial inclusion for our countries. Jamaica reaffirms its commitment to this process to ensure that the development challenges of middle-income countries are prioritized and effectively addressed in the evolving multilateral sphere. I thank you.
I thank the permanent representative for his remarks, and I now wish to give the floor to His Excellency Neville Melvin Gersa, the permanent representative of Namibia to the United Nations, to be followed by Chile.
Excellency, distinguished delegates, on behalf of the government of the Republic of Namibia, allow for the duration of our stay in Manila. We view this conference as a commitment to and continuation of our collective interests in achieving sustainable development as middle-income countries. We are grateful to the Kingdom of Morocco for their sterling leadership of the group in elevating the profile and agenda of our group, and we look forward to and offer our full support and cooperation to the Philippines as you assume leadership of our group now. Ladies and gentlemen, the assessment of development cooperation with middle-income countries reveals persistent challenges across all three dimensions of sustainable development: environmental, social, and economic. Our aspirations are hindered by entrenched structural inequalities that we face. These include independent intervening variables like climate vulnerability. Namibia continues to implement the SDGs through pro-poor policies, a focus that will persist under the leadership of our new head of state, Her Excellency Dr. Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah, with 7 identified priorities. Number 1, agriculture, land, housing and sanitation, quality education, youth empowerment, sports, creative industries, and health and social welfare. These efforts occur amid high poverty rates, prolonged droughts, reliance on primary commodities, and deep income inequalities. To diversify her energy mix and drive a socioeconomic development, Namibia is expanding into oil, gas, and emerging green industries such as green hydrogen, which will support economic diversification, infrastructure growth, and a just, inclusive transition. Chair, while MICs are highly diverse, their collective classification oversimplifies the complexities they face. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development calls for bold changes in how development is conceived and evaluated. We recall the commitments made in the Pact for the Future, emphasizing the urgent need to reform the international financial architecture and adopt measures beyond GDP to classify our countries, relying on full realization of Agenda 2030. Namibia therefore appeals for stronger solidarity among UN member states as we seek beneficial outcomes at the upcoming 4th Financing for Development Conference and the 2nd World Social Summit for Social Development. Positive results from these meetings are critical for securing the means of implementation in today's complex global economic environment. Moreover, despite our classification as an upper middle income country, Namibia continues to view official development assistance and concessional finance as vital for social and economic development. Barriers such as limited industrial financing and skills development continue to hamper growth in Namibia's manufacturing sector. Finally, we call on international organizations, lenders, and wealthier nations to support debt relief initiatives, fair lending practices, and mechanisms to prevent future debt crises. In conclusion, Namibia believes that the goals outlined in the Makati Declaration offer a transformative path not only for MICs, but also for countries transitioning into this category. I thank you, Mr. Chair.
The floor to His Excellency Alvaro Jara, the Ambassador of Chile to the Philippines, to be followed by Colombia.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, dear friends, amigos y amigas, Chile thanks the Republic of the Philippines for the hospitality and the excellent organization of this conference, as well as the leadership of the outgoing Moroccan presidency. Thank you very much. We especially welcome the adoption of the Makati Declaration, an important step toward articulating a concrete and forward-looking roadmap aligned with our shared challenges and priorities. In recent decades, many countries have made progress towards middle-income status, yet this evolution often coexists with deep inequalities, persistent vulnerabilities, and institutional limitations that constrain sustainable development. Chile's own experience underscores this paradox. Despite reducing income poverty, critical gaps remain in health, education, and housing. The pandemic further deepened these inequalities, exposing the fragility of our social protection system when faced with increased demands and challenges. The persistent gap between economic growth and structural challenges reveals the limitation of the current system of international cooperation. We need a new approach that recognizes the complexity of development beyond income and equips countries with the tools to navigate without financial help and support. We need to emphasize the importance of finding alternative metrics that truly reflect our current situations. We welcome the Pact for the Future's mandate to establish a high-level panel of independent experts and the intergovernmental, and believe we trust maintain the momentum through the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development and the 2nd World Summit for Social Development. More robust data is needed to drive tangible reforms in the international financial architecture institutions, including multilateral development banks, must adapt their risk models and eligibility to frameworks to the diverse and evolving realities of the middle-income countries. We require a long-term financing, differentiated support policies and mechanisms tailored to support the structural transformations, particularly in the climate, digital, and productive sectors. Chile firmly believes that advancing towards a specific plan of action for middle-income countries is not only necessary, it is urgent. And this is the path to strengthening the coherence of the multilateral system and ensuring that no country is left behind simply because traditional metrics fail to capture its realities. Let us move forward together with ambition and conviction toward a development agenda that truly leaves no one behind. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
I thank the Ambassador of Chile for his remarks. I now wish to give the floor to His Excellency Edgar Rodrigo Rojas, the Ambassador of Colombia to the Philippines, to be followed by Malaysia.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colombia would like to congratulate the Philippines for its election as chair of the like-minded group for middle-income countries. The Makati Declaration we adopt today is the reflection of our unwavering commitment to elevate our partnership to ensure that the main priorities of the group will translate into specific solutions through the United Nations Sustainable Development System and the outcomes of the 4th International Conference of Financing for Development to be held in Sevilla. While we have made significant progress in building common understanding around the impact of the middle-income trap and the insufficient roads of geopolitical tensions and uncertainty that threaten the ambition required to implement 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and further limits our country's capacity to sustain hard-won development gains. Concessional finance for middle-income countries is continuously declining in a context of high cost of capital and overburdened debt that constrain our country's fiscal space to meet the ever-increasing investments needs to close social and economic inequalities, protect nature, fight climate change, advance just energy transition, and achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Our partnership must be at the forefront of promoting urgent, innovative, and systemic reforms to address what the Secretary General have denominated as the moral bankruptcy of the international financial architecture, and to create the enabling conditions that will not only put our countries in a pathway to achieve sustainable development, but also harness our potential to help others to do so. Conference delivered on the following. 1. Accelerating the establishment of measures of progress that go beyond GDP to inform access to financing for development resources. Aligning the mandates of the international finance. 3. Integrating climate and nature risk in debt sustainability frameworks and effective debt management solutions. 4. Scaling up and simplifying the use of debt swaps for nature and climate to increase developing countries' fiscal space. 5. Increasing investments and lowering the cost of capital for clean and renewable energy projects and technologies. And 6, reviewing the fiscal rule methodologies to enable long-term investments and sustainability and better distribute the risk between creditors and debtors during shocks. These issues remain critical for a fairer and more inclusive development and cooperation paradigm. Colombia will continue to promote them in the elaboration of a strategic program of action for middle-income countries, an endeavor critical to secure tailor-made solutions for countries that account for 75% of the global population. We call on all development partners, United Nations, funds and programs, regional commissions, and financial institutions to actively engage in this exercise. I thank you.
I thank the Ambassador of Colombia for his remarks. I now wish to give the floor to His Excellency Datu Abdul Malik Melvin Castellino, the Ambassador of Malaysia to the Philippines, to be followed by Pakistan.
Honorable Secretary Enrico Manalo, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Please allow me to begin my remark by expressing Malaysia's utmost appreciation to the Government of the Republic of Philippines for organizing this timely conference, as well as an invitation and hospitality extended to Malaysia as one of the observers to the high-level conference on middle-income countries. Malaysia also like to congratulate Philippines, not least the resurgence of protectionism and trade tensions, alongside the existential threat of climate change, demographic transition, and the disruptive rise of artificial intelligence and emerging technologies have far-reaching implications for development trajectories of the middle-income countries. Under the spirit of South-South cooperation, Malaysia remains committed and steadfast in our support for developing countries through the provision of the Malaysian Technical Cooperation Program, focusing on capacity building and technical assistance. Until 2024, Malaysia is pleased to share that we hosted countries. We hope the knowledge and experience brought back by these participants will help in the development of their countries. Taking heed of the ever-changing geopolitics and changes to the economic policies, Malaysia is of the view that it may be fruitful for the MIC member states to continue to congregate and reevaluate past policies, introduce alternative platforms, and create new synergies that could ensure a collective strategic approach in order for our part to remain conducive to every economic environment that may come our way. May this conference also serve as a platform to catapult these discussions. One of the key challenges for economic development among MIC countries is financing, particularly in the SME and capacity development. this regard, in the ASEAN region, we have the assistance from the ASEAN Development Bank, ADB, set up the ASEAN Infrastructure Fund with the aim of funding sovereign and sovereign-granted projects in ASEAN region. The fund is expected to finance approximately 6 infrastructure projects every year. Through this fund, ASEAN hopes to assist our members in developing their infrastructure, as well as to become a catalyst for economic development, thus elevating our members to a higher level of income bracket. We are confident that ASEAN members will have a solid foundation in our quest for ASEAN economic integration. Malaysia will be pleased to share our experience with middle-income countries on how ASEAN, and Malaysia in particular, utilize this facility in transforming our economy and subsequently improving the well-being of our people. With Malaysia chairing ASEAN DC and Philippines in 2026, perhaps this could be one of the areas which we can focus on. In regard to public and private partnership, as a catalyst for growth, we hope to see more collaborations between government agencies, private sector players, and international partners, facilitating knowledge sharing, investments, and of course, capacity building, green technology, and the development of micro, small, and medium enterprises. These partnerships can drive sustainability, promote inclusive growth, and support global transition towards a greener future. Malaysia remains committed to advancing South-South cooperation by sharing its expertise, best practices, and innovative development models in these crucial areas. Before I end my remark, I would like to reiterate Malaysia's commitment to the constructive engagements under the ambit of South-South cooperation that foster mutual benefit, strengthens capacity building, and promotes sustainable long-term progress across development countries. With this, I thank you, Excellency.
I thank the Ambassador of Malaysia for his remarks, and I now wish to give the floor to Ms. Zumare Fatima, the Chargé d'Affaires of the Embassy of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, to be followed by Guatemala.
Honorable Chair, Excellencies and delegates, first and foremost, we would express our deep appreciation to the Philippines for convening this high-level conference on economic complexities and development needs faced by our countries. Pakistan, like many other MICs, faces a complex and multifaceted development landscape shaped by a multitude of challenges and opportunities. Our annual financing gap for the SDGs stand at one of the top 10 countries in the world most vulnerable to climate change. Our adaptation needs are immense, estimated to costing between $7 to $14 billion per annum. Over the past 4 years, our growth trajectory has been disrupted due to the poly crisis of the COVID. As a middle-income country, we find ourselves in a challenging position, often ineligible for concessional finance, yet too vulnerable to fully withstand global economic and environmental shocks. Undoubtedly, the global financial architecture requires reform in order to cater for the specific and unique circumstances of countries such as ours. Allow me to outline a few concrete measures in this regard. First, consideration of measures beyond GDP as a criteria for assessing financial support, including concessional financing. International financial institutions such as the World Bank and the IMF must broaden the eligibility criteria for concessional finance to take into account not only per capita income, but also factors like exposure to climate risks, debt distress, and socio-economic beyond GDP, as well as the subsequent intergovernmental process. Second, pursuing a more development-oriented debt architecture. Many middle-income countries are facing unsustainable levels of debt, which hinder our ability to invest in development and address urgent crises like climate change. We require reforms to the debt architecture which facilitate greater support to middle-income countries in developing debt for SDG swap, expand their eligibility for debt restructuring frameworks, and revisiting the IMF World Bank debt system. Third, enhancing access to liquidity, including through a strengthened global financial safety net. Under the current global financial system, middle-income countries often have to rely on high interest rates and commercial borrowing to access funds, which can be detrimental to long-term economic stability, especially in the wake of crisis. We require a global financial safety net which is more sensitive to the unique challenges faced by MICs. This requires simplifying access to short-term, low-conditionality tools, strengthening central bank swap line networks, facilitating faster SDR issuance and rechanneling, improving multilateral development bank liquidity support, and lowering the cost of capital for MICs, including through de-risking private investing and reforming credit rating methodologies. Excellencies, I hope we can advance these aforementioned actions in the lead-up to the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development. I thank you.
I thank you very much for your remarks, and I give the floor now to Ms. Nancy Ramirez of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Guatemala, to be followed by Costa Rica.
Chair, Excellencies, distinguished ministers, distinguished heads of delegation, dear colleagues. On behalf of the government of Guatemala, I extend our congratulations to the Republic of Philippines for organizing this conference and for assuming the chairmanship of the like-minded group of countries support of MCIs. We also thank the Kingdom of Morocco for the understanding leadership of the group since 2022. It's a privilege to gather in this beautiful city and share our views on how to advance towards a strategic plan for action for middle-income countries. We see that the Makati Declaration to be adopted today contains a clear roadmap of our further steps. Allow me to share that Guatemala has experienced a notable evolution in its economic income classification in the way that is defined by the World 2017 graduating to the upper middle income category. This evolution has been a relevant factor that influences the amount of cooperation the country receives, impacting the perception of international donors of our country's economic capacity and development, resulting in less financial assistance. Guatemala recognizes the vital role that this like-minded group has performed in calling for a serious discussion in different multilateral forums, with the aim to rethink the measurement criteria, ensuring that per capita income is not only criteria used to allocate financial resources for cooperation. In recent years, it has become evident that sustainable development encompasses comprehensive issues beyond economic growth, but we should keep our efforts to operationalize this perspective. For example, the commitment in the Pact for the Future to develop measures that complement and go beyond GDP could be used to guide international cooperation, financial, and policy alignment will reach commitments and concrete actions to address financing needs at all levels. The international financial architecture should be more democratic, just, and equitable, enhancing its resilience and effectiveness in responding to present and future challenges. Excellencies, the United Nations system has a vital role and should advance in providing a more efficient, effective, better focused, and coordinated support, strengthening efforts through a country context approach. Middle-income countries are not only recipients of development support, but also active contributors to global development, innovation, and multilateralism. South-South and Triangle cooperation is a powerful vehicle for sharing knowledge and best practices, promoting technology transfer and building resilience, but always as an essential complement and non-substitute of traditional North-South cooperation. We should stress the need to better understand and address our diverse and specific development challenges, because middle-income countries are key to the global achievements of Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. Count on the active support of Guatemala in this regard. Thank you, Chair, for the floor.
Thank you very much for your remarks. I now wish to give the floor to Mr. Roberto Avendaño Sancho of the
Excellencies, distinguished participants, we express our sincere gratitude to the government and people of the Philippines for their generous hospitality. We commend the Kingdom of Morocco for its leadership of the like-minded group of middle-income countries and congratulate the Philippines for assuming this important responsibility. 3 out of every 4 people on the planet live in middle-income countries, which generate over 35% of their development needs. Failing to act on this reality means neglecting the challenges that affect a large majority of the global population. In this regard, I would like to highlight 3 key actions. First, there is an urgent need to increase international cooperation and ensure fair access to financing. International cooperation and concessional financing must be scaled up and tailored to the specific realities of middle-income countries. Second, it is crucial to rethink outdated development measurement criteria focused solely on GDP growth. Otherwise, middle-income countries will continue to be excluded from the support they still require. If we remain anchored to traditional per capita GDP-based criteria, we will miss the opportunities to improve the well-being of entire nations, even when the means to support them not become a barrier to development. If this trend is not reversed, middle-income countries will continue to divert value. Calls for the adoption of innovative solutions such as debt for nature swaps, recognizing the environmental services that the natural resources of developing countries provide to the rest of the planet. Excellencies, the Fourth International Conference for Finance for Development must bring concrete results that support middle-income countries in overcoming the trap of the income-based classification. Only through a revitalized and inclusive financial framework can middle-income countries accelerate their transition to high-income economies with greater levels of well-being. Costa Rica calls for the contributions and challenges of middle-income countries to be duly recognized. We are not merely economies in transition, but fundamental pillars of global development. I thank you.
Thank you very much for your remarks. I give the
Thank you, Honorable Secretary, Excellencies, distinguished colleagues. Firstly, El Salvador extends its heartfelt congratulations to the government of the Philippines on assuming the new chairmanship of the like-minded group of middle-income countries. We express our strong support and confidence in your leadership at this important juncture to revitalize the global agenda for middle-income countries. We also wish to sincerely thank the government and people of the Philippines for their warm hospitality and outstanding organization in hosting this high-level conference. The warm spirit and professionalism in which have been received provide an ideal setting for meaningful dialogue and collective ambition. We really appreciate. We further commend the Kingdom of Morocco for its exceptional leadership and unwavering commitment over the past years. The dedicated efforts have been instrumental in elevating the priorities of middle-income countries on the global agenda and in strengthening the collective voice of our group. We believe that this high-level conference represents a critical opportunity to move from dialogue to direction through the development of a strategic program of action for middle-income countries. This initiative must provide not only a concrete and coordinated path forward, but also a lasting platform to articulate common priorities and strengthen international responses and promote fair and effective international support. As it had been exchanged throughout the different sessions in the conference and contributing to the provision of public goods, yet they continue to be overlooked in many global frameworks. At the same time, we continue to face complex and persistent development challenges, while many international frameworks still do not respond adequately to our needs and realities. El Salvador recognizes that national progress must be matched by coherent multilateral responses. Today, it is important to recognize the growing complexities of today's global challenges and reaffirm the urgent need to transform the international architecture. Such transformation should take place at all levels to create a more agile, effective, and forward-looking system, capable of anticipating and responding to the evolving needs of our societies. We therefore reaffirm the urgency of reviewing the criteria that determine access to international cooperation and other sources of financing for development. GDP, it is not an accurate reflection of development. It does not capture inequality, resilience, or structural vulnerabilities. If we accept the limitations adopted in the Pact for the Future, in particular the commitments related to beyond GDP, that it will establish an expert group on this matter. We welcome the adoption of the Makati Declaration that it will take place in a few minutes, and we reiterate our commitment to contribute actively to the elaboration of the strategic program of action. The importance of a renewed and inclusive financial architecture, one that recognizes the diverse realities of middle-income countries and supports their efforts to advance sustainable development. In that regard, we called on the international community to move beyond recognition towards transformative action through fairer policies, tailored support, and a revitalized multilateral system that truly responds to the aspirations of middle-income countries. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much for your remarks. I now give the floor to Ms. Silvia Paula Mendoza Elguea of the Permanent Mission of Mexico to the United Nations, to be followed by Ecuador.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, of the like-minded group of middle-income countries. We also express our deep appreciation to the Kingdom of Morocco for successfully steering the group over the past 2 years, and extend a special recognition to His Excellency Ambassador Omar Hilal and to Ms. Mariam Hamdouni for their outstanding work and dedication during their leadership in New York. We are currently facing multiple and interrelated crises that include the questioning of our multilateral institutions and development framework. The United Nations turns 80 years old this year, and as we approach the target date for the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, our shared ambition demands urgent action and more cooperation. As middle-income countries, MICs, we must accelerate progress on the Sustainable Development Goals, not only through renewed political commitment, but also strengthen finance of the 2030 Agenda. The convergence of complex and interconnected challenges, such as escalating climate impacts, political and economic fragmentation, and tightening financing constraints, underscore the need for renewed partnerships and coherent approaches to sustainable development finance. As we know, MICs face these challenges in a unique way, with limited access to concessional financing, debt burdens, growing global protectionism, the country's financial sector and investment policies, focusing primarily on gender equality within financial institutions to support with innovative solutions such as SDG-linked bonds, increased digital inclusion and financial literacy to ensure that no one is left behind. A reformed financial architecture that is more representative, inclusive, and responsive environment to ensure that multilateral processes and the rules-based system can address our challenges effectively. Financial architecture fit for purpose and capable of addressing our current and future global challenges. Working towards building resilience to systemic shocks and addressing the diverse needs of all countries, particularly our middle-income countries, including by enhancing our representation and voice in decision-making in international financial institutions, is paramount. We welcome also the commitments contained in the Pact for the Future regarding beyond GDP and the adoption today of the Makati Declaration. Reaching our goals will never be possible without addressing all digital divides and without ensuring women's meaningful participation and leadership in all spheres of society. Our mutual commitment to the multilateral system should always be our guide. Thank you very much.
And thank you for your remarks. I now wish to call on Mr. Santiago Duran of the Permanent Mission of Ecuador to the United Nations.
Gentlemen, on behalf of Ecuador, I would like to thank the government of the Philippines and the United Nations system for their generous hospitality and the excellent organization of this conference, and to acknowledge the leadership of the Kingdom of Morocco as the outgoing chair of the like-minded group of middle-income countries. We also wish the Philippines every success as it assumes the chairmanship of the group. Mr. Chair, this conference comes at a critical moment. Despite our progress, middle-income countries continue to face, welcomes the adoption of the Makati Declaration, a firm step towards a strategic action plan for MICs, guided by the principle that development must be multidimensional, inclusive, and sustainable. It is evident that the current model of international cooperation, based solely on per capita income, fails to reflect the complexity of development and the multidimensional vulnerabilities countries face. As a result, many MICs are excluded from concessional financing and key cooperation mechanisms, despite being home to over 60% of the world's poor. This logic has led many to risk falling into the middle income trap, advancing in certain indicators, but reimagining development strategies requires rethinking the international financial architecture, reforming eligibility criteria to reflect multidimensional vulnerabilities, promoting equitable access to climate concessional and blend challenges, and the rise of new technologies such as artificial intelligence demand stronger institutional capacities, social inclusion, and international cooperation adapted to these realities. We therefore support the development in transition approach and the call to establish indicators that go beyond GDP. Ecuador has made tangible progress in advancing sustainable development, thanks to targeted social programs and initiatives promoting economic inclusion. Efforts to address child malnutrition have been reinforced through comprehensive early childhood and maternal support programs, while investments in education, health, and rural development continue to empower vulnerable communities. At the same time, initiatives to promote transparency, strengthening institutions, and foster inclusive governance have been expanded. Ecuador also recognizes the importance of South-South and triangular cooperation, enabling solutions among countries that share common challenges and aspirations. Mr. Chair, looking ahead to FFD4, Ecuador reiterates its commitment to an ambitious agenda that places middle-income countries at the center. Finally, we call for strengthening the role of the United Nations as a strategic partner for MICs. It is crucial to consolidate a strategic plan for middle-income countries that will accompany us through 2030 and beyond. Muchas gracias.
Thank you for your statement. I now wish to give the floor to Ms. Norma Abikaram of the Permanent Mission of Lebanon to the United Nations, to be followed by Uruguay.
Mr. Secretary, Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, we would like to express our deep appreciation to the Republic of the Philippines for organizing and hosting this high-level conference for middle-income countries at a vital moment in the multilateral and financing development agenda. We would also like to thank the Kingdom of Morocco for its efforts and remarkable work in chairing the like-minded group for middle-income countries since 2023. Shukran jazilan. Furthermore, we extend our deep appreciation and congratulations to the Republic of the Philippines on assuming the new chairmanship of the group, and we take this opportunity to reaffirm Lebanon's support. Middle-income countries are home to over 70% of the world's global population and account for 1/3 of global GDP. Moreover, over the last 25 years, some middle-income countries became poor in terms of income per capita and are facing severe constraints in access to funding, concessional and non-concessional finance, and technical assistance. Lebanon is still experiencing a multidimensional crisis, from the severe economic and financial crisis to the humanitarian one compounded by the recent Israeli aggressions, impacting key economic sectors, with significant losses in the GDP and alarming consequences and 500,000 Palestinian refugees. Reconstruction and recovery needs following the conflict are estimated at $11 billion, according to the latest report released by the World Bank. Middle-income countries need the attention and support of the international community, in particular lower middle-income countries, facing challenges such as conflicts, forced displacement, climate change, and digital divides, hindering the implementation of the SDGs. We need to place MICs at the heart of the global development agenda and ensure they have equitable access. It is essential to adopt measures of progress that go beyond GDP, to better recognize the multidimensional nature of sustainable development, and support middle-income countries based on their specific challenges, such as high debt burdens. We highlight the importance of the ODA and international financial architecture that responds to the needs of developing countries and to achieve sustainable development in its economic, social, and environmental dimensions. Debt distress is a major hurdle for the implementation of SDGs. as nearly a third of MICs are at high risk of a fiscal crisis. Debt sustainability depends on many factors beyond effective debt management at the international and national levels, as we emphasize the country-specific circumstances and the impact of external shocks. We should improve the global sovereign debt architecture with the inclusive participation of all middle-income countries in all their diversities. We need a comprehensive and fair debt relief mechanism, including innovative approaches and expansion of liquidity support by international financial institutions. In addition, MICs need the international support in scaling up the means of implementation in order to achieve the SDGs, including in terms of technology transfer, skills development, capacity building, innovation, and emerging technologies such as AI. Lebanon welcomes the adoption of the Makati Declaration on MICs. We also stress the importance of this conference as a recommitment and tangible expression of the political support to lead to the elaboration of a comprehensive plan of action for MICs with concrete proposals to reform the agenda, in cooperation with the UN Development System, development partners, and relevant stakeholders to help in advancing this project of the United Nations system, member states, and development partners. Since 2020, Lebanon witnessed a booming in the solar energy sector, showing how energy transition can take hold in time of crisis. As well, Lebanon's new government in Lebanon. Lastly, this year, Lebanon looks forward to engaging in the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development in cooperation with and among middle-income countries. With the right support, middle-income countries are central and global drivers of sustainable development. I thank you.
And thank you for your statement. I now wish to give the floor to Ms. Stephanie.
Excellency, Secretary of Foreign Affairs of the Philippines, esteemed representatives of the UN system, ambassadors, delegates, and colleagues. On behalf of Uruguay, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to the Philippines for hosting this conference and for the warm hospitality. Amid multiple challenges and persistent political and economic uncertainty, Uruguay commends the outstanding leadership of Morocco for driving forward the discussion within the UN on the unique circumstances faced by middle-income countries on their pathways towards sustainable development. We also congratulate the Philippines on assuming the chairmanship of the like-minded group, and we fully trust in your future work and guidance. Given our long-standing commitment to the 2030 Agenda and its SDGs, it is imperative that we, particularly in today's challenging environment, lead efforts to reinforce the UN development system and safeguard the centrality of our priorities within the multilateral agenda. Our shared challenges and common goals in transitioning towards sustainable development should be at the heart of an action plan that draws on our collective experiences and offers tangible solutions to address key gaps. The strategic plan must acknowledge the diversity of our countries, promoting tailored solutions that reflect our national context while improving access to cooperation, financing, and technical support under more favorable terms. But it should also serve as a powerful tool to amplify the voice-oriented support that meets the unique needs of each country. This shift should move away from the traditional model, accurate assessments of each country's specific needs, and foster partnerships and financing. South-South cooperation provides a rich pool of lessons learned, best practices, and solutions to structural challenges. From sustainable finance initiatives such as thematic bonds and debt for climate and nature swaps, to inclusive green energy transitions and digitalizations, these areas hold great promise for our future collaborations. Therefore, it is also crucial to explore with the support of the UN system. Moreover, we continue to advocate for more accessible financing mechanisms that transcend per capita income. The like-minded group of middle-income countries has led this issue to the forefront of the UN discussions, demonstrating how our unified voice has driven momentum in this complex discussion of its results and improve access to affordable and long-term financing and international cooperation, including technical support. Another vital aspect to address it is the graduation of countries to high-income status. It is essential to anticipate and be prepared for the challenges that comes with that transition, adjusting our approach to development as a continuous process, rather than one defined solely by economic growth. The means of implementation must be refined to reflect criteria that complement GDP and provide a more comprehensive understanding of development in its three dimensions. Finally, in the context of building partnerships and in line with the commitments of the SDG 17, the United Nations Development System should help to strike a balance between policy advice, fostering partnerships, and facilitating access to science, technology, innovation, and support for sustainable infrastructure development that helps our countries. In conclusion, Uruguay believes that the development of a strategic plan must remain aligned with the principles of the 2030 Agenda and building on the Pact for the Future, with a particular focus on reducing inequalities, promoting social inclusion, gender equality and women's economic empowerment, and harnessing the power of digital group to ensure our shared challenges and experiences in transitions towards sustainable development, and that those are integrated into the development agenda at the UN, and looks forward to advancing this crucial work alongside all of you. I thank you.
Thank you very much for your statement. I now wish to give the floor to Ms. Odonceseg of the Ministry of Family, Labor, and Social Protection of Mongolia, to be followed by Vietnam.
Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I would like to express our deep gratitude to the government of Republic of the Philippines for successfully organizing this high-level conference aimed at promoting the development and progress of middle-income countries collaboration. We also extend our gratitude to the UN Development System entities for their collaboration and support in organizing this important high-level conference. Challenges Mongolia faces in overcoming the middle-income trap. First one is economic overdependence, low productivity growth, challenges in education and human capital, weak institutions, unstable investment environment, lack of technology advancement and innovation, urbanization and infrastructure deficiencies, also environmental degradations. Mongolia must prioritize economic diversification, institutional reforms, productivity enhancement, and education system social development in order to successfully overcome the middle-income trap. What a middle-income country can do together to overcome this middle-income trap is a deepened regional economic integration. For example, reduce traffic and non-traffic barriers and move towards a unified market. Facilitate the free flow of goods, services, capital, and skilled labor across borders. Also enhance productivity through technological cooperation, develop joint education and skills development programs. Through collective effort in economic diversification, investment in innovation, education and institutional strengthening and green sustainable development, Southeast Asian countries can successfully overcome middle-income trap. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your statement. I now wish to give the floor to Assistant to the Director General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Vietnam, Ms. Phuc Phan, to be followed by UNESCO.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Eric Manalo, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, Vietnam is honored to join you today And we would like to extend our thanks to the Philippines for the excellent organization of the conference, the warm hospitality, and especially the outstanding leadership in bringing us together, and for championing the important resolution on advancing the sustainable development of MICs. Across continents and oceans, we, the middle-income countries, share a powerful ambition to rise higher, to lift our people, and to build a future that are greener, smarter, and fairer. Vietnam proudly stands with many fellow MICs in aspiring to become an upper middle-income economy. From Vietnam's journey, it takes 2 generations to turn the country from a battlefield into a top 40 economy as today. One lesson stands very clear for us. Economic growth must never come at the cost of social protection or environmental stewardship. People is always at the heart of our policies. For Vietnam, and I believe for all of us here, development is only meaningful when it uplifts lives, protects dignity, and preserves our planet. Ladies and gentlemen, looking forward, we know there is no single path to success, yet there is a spirit that binds us together, the spirit of cooperation, collaboration, and coordination, the 3 C's that many remarks before us has already highlighted. From our story, Vietnam calls for the spirit of 3 C's in 3 key areas. First, mobilize every possible resource for development, from the public, from the private, from our development partners, and from philanthropists, as we call them, the 4 P's, both at national and global level. No resource is too small, and no partner is too distant. Second, seize the twin transition, green and lift into the intelligent era. Third, invest boldly in our people. The future belongs to those who are prepared. By reskilling, upskilling, and empowering our workforce, we can turn the promise of progress into lasting prosperity. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that through the spirit of 3 C's, we can turn our diverse journeys into a common success story, a story of resilience, innovation, and shared prosperity for all middle-income countries. Thank you very much. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much for your statement. I now wish to give the floor to Ms. Armida Salcia Aliciamana, the Undersecretary General of the United Nations and ESCAP Executive Secretary.
Honorable Secretary Manalo, Excellencies, distinguished participants, attainment of SDGs calls for economic growth, reduced inequalities, and environmental protection. The Strategic Plan of Action for Middle-Income Countries reflects the principal dimensions of sustainable development, as well as the key means of implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development as its priority. Of the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development, which focuses on reforming the international financial architecture and addressing financing challenges, we support deliberation on strategies and position of middle-income countries. We support sustainable investment, supply chain practices, green technologies, and infrastructure, as well as inclusive business practices, which are critical for MICs to avoid the middle-income country trap. With United Nations Global Compact as our guiding framework for engagement with the private sector, the ESCAP Sustainable Business Network promotes use of sustainable practices and public-private partnership. We further support the scaling up of digital transformation and innovation for SDGs implementation acceleration. We advocate for the reduction of inequalities and improve access to services through comprehensive social protection systems so that no one is left behind. With development cooperation undergoing radical change, we underscore the imperative of South-South as well as South-South Triangle cooperation, while at the same time, we facilitate the emergence of new partners as well as approaches to regional development cooperation. Least developed countries, landlocked developing countries, and small island development states comprise more than 2/3 of middle-income countries in our region. Many had emerged from conflict-limited resources. Yet, they have been able to transition from low to middle income status. Their success results from regional cooperation, sub-regional cooperation in Southeast Asia, including through the framework of ASEAN, supported development in Cambodia, Laos PDR, Myanmar, and Timor-Leste. For this to continue, coherence between the strategic plan of action for the middle-income countries and the programs of actions for these groups of countries will be critical as they reinforce the implementation of each other. Despite remaining challenges, we remain to navigate through past crises and emerge stronger and better. Thank you very much.
I thank the Undersecretary General for her remarks. I now wish to give the floor to Ms. Fatu Haidara, the Deputy to the Director General and Managing Director of the Directorate of Global Partnerships and External Relations of UNIDO, to be followed by UNOSSC.
Honorable Secretary Manolo, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, taking the floor again, I would like to highlight the importance of industrialization as a key driver of sustainable economic growth and for generating quality jobs and income. To break new grounds and build a strategic plan of action for middle-income countries, it is essential to factor in industrial development that is inclusive and sustainable. Industrialization enables countries to transform their comparative advantage to unlock the full potential of middle-income countries. The United Nations Industrial Development Organization is committed to supporting their industrial transformation and continued economic growth. By advancing the industry-related targets of the 2030 Agenda, particularly Sustainable Development Goal 9, the green energy transition. As I mentioned earlier, 104 out of UNIDO's 173 member states are middle-income countries. And to respond to their challenges and accompany them in their growth, we established a strategic framework for partnering with MICS. Under this framework, UNIDO implements over 300 technical cooperation projects addressing various industrial development challenges. These projects range from technological innovation in industries, capacity building, climate resilience, as well as inclusive value chain integration. Ladies and gentlemen, the current global context is a decisive moment, an opportunity for all of us to reinforce industrial development as a driver of environmental sustainability and economic resilience. As for the middle-income countries, an opportunity to strengthen policies, enhance institutional capacities, and strengthen instruments that enable technology and investment flows that position the industry at the forefront of the green transition. In this perspective, UNIDO stands ready to support the MICS in their industrial development priorities. Let me conclude here with a collective call to action. The path ahead may present challenges, but it is equally rich with opportunities. UNIDO welcomes the Makati Declaration and reaffirms its commitment to supporting the development of the new strategic plan of action and the delivery of concrete, scalable solutions. I thank you.
I thank Ms. Haidara for her remarks. I now give the floor to Ms. Dima Al-Khatib, the Director of the UN Office for South-South Cooperation, to be followed by UN Habitat.
Honorable Mr. Manolo, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, I'd like to begin by thanking the government of the Philippines for hosting this important high-level conference for the middle-income countries and to congratulate the government on the chairmanship of the like-minded group of the MICS. We stand at a defining moment. Middle-income countries are home to 75% of the world population and driving 1/3 of global GDP. They are uniquely positioned to shape the future of global progress. MICs hold the power to steer economic growth, advance sustainable development, and forge resilient pathways for generations to come. Yet, the global challenges threaten this potential. Fragmentation, supply chain disruptions, weakening of trade relations, and interlocking crises are projected to reduce the global GDP by 7%. And these risks jeopardize hard-won development gains and demand urgent and collective action. The cooperation among the MICs, anchored in the principles of solidarity and mutual benefit as typified by South-South and Triangle cooperation, and as noted by many delegations today, are even more crucial to transcend borders, to deliver context-specific solutions to unique challenges, as well as channel support that poses no burden. Regional and cross-regional cooperation, as well as regional integration, will be particularly vital. Excellencies, we convene this year in a region that affirms the centrality of regional integration and cooperation to the growth of economies and the rise of the MICs, lifted 1.5 billion people out of extreme poverty within 2 generations. MICs have transformed development cooperation for good. Through technical exchanges and catalytic fund, many actively contribute to regional and cross-regional progress, fostering innovation and shared growth. And we at the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation are committed, in line with our mandate, to facilitate these partnerships. UNOSSC manages unique trust funds resourced entirely by Global South contributions to deliver strategic support to Global South and to all the countries in the Global South. We are also committed to amplify the knowledge, expertise, and resources of the middle-income countries through technology transfer, capacity building, peer-to-peer learning within partners in the North to bolster Southern-led initiatives. And this strengthens ties with traditional partners while elevating the Global South role in driving transformative change. As we build the momentum from Rabat and the Makati declarations and look forward to critical milestones, such as the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development, we stand ready to partner here will shape the future of the middle-income countries and the world. And let us seize this moment to deepen our collaboration, to leverage our...
I thank Director Al-Khatib for her remarks. I now give the floor to Ms. Kazuko Ishikagi, the Regional Director for Asia and the Pacific, UN Habitat, to be followed by UNICEF.
Honorable Mr. Chair, Mr. Manalo, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, and UN agency colleagues, we, UN Habitat, express our deepest gratitude to the government of Philippines for convening this important conference. We also commend the leadership of Kingdom of Morocco for guiding MIC initiatives. We, UN Habitat, is at the finalization stage of the new strategic plan 2026-2029. The plan focuses on housing, land, and basic services, responding to a growing global housing crisis affecting 2.8 billion people. Accounts to a significant share, with 600 million people living in conditions characterized by the absence of basic services and inadequate housing. The slow progress toward SDG Goal 11, particularly in ensuring universal access to adequate, safe, and affordable housing, demands urgent action and stronger partnerships. In Asia and the Pacific, urban population is expected to grow from 2.5 billion in 2023 to 3.5 billion in 2050. Our cities are at the heart of global challenges. This is where many of today's compounding crises converge: the climate crisis, the cost of living crisis, and the global housing crisis, which I mentioned. The impact of climate change is increasing, and those living in informal settlements are the most vulnerable and the hardest hit when disasters strike, often losing their shelters. At the same time, there is a growing recognition that cities are also drivers for innovative solutions and economic growth. Cities and local governments can deliver progress where it matters most in people's daily lives. Together with partners, including other UN agencies, we are supporting MICs for risk-sensitive, resilient, and inclusive urban development and reconstruction. We are also working to strengthen local delivery across critical urban systems from housing and mobility to energy and waste. Practical inclusive solutions on the ground. We promote people-centered smart city approach with increased use of digital technologies. The conference these 2 days understood and confirmed the importance of MIC cooperation in addressing challenges and advocating for shared approaches. In the region of Asia and the Pacific, we need to enhance solidarity while recognizing the diverse challenges facing middle-income countries, including small island developing states, as well as landlocked developing countries, and tailored solutions and strategic and strong collaborations to address these challenges. Thank you very much.
I thank the Regional Director for her remarks. I now wish to give the floor to Mr. Behzad Nobari, the UNICEF Country Representative AI, to be followed by UNECA.
Thank you, Chair. Distinguished delegates, colleagues, and partners, UNICEF extends our appreciation to the Republic of the Philippines for convening this conference and to the Kingdom of Morocco for their leadership through the preceding one in Rabat. This event amplifies middle-income countries' voices, highlighting their paradox of progress, structural vulnerabilities, inequalities, financing gaps, and challenges and opportunities in realizing children's rights and the Sustainable Development Goals. As we navigate a rapidly evolving global landscape, it is imperative to rethink and reshape pathways to inclusive, child-centered development. As we have heard, middle-income countries are home to 75% of the world's population and nearly 1/3 of the global gross domestic production. They are pivotal engines of global growth and key partners in shaping a more equitable, sustainable future. This conference invites us to forge bold partnerships, mobilize investments, and to co-create solutions that are context-specific, equity-driven, and grounded in evidence. As UNICEF, we call on leaders to focus on transparent public financing and ambitious climate-related actions for children, as well as to continue prioritizing and investing in closing equity gaps and reducing structural barriers to achieving universal child well-being. Investing in the youngest and the most vulnerable yields the transformative societal returns and builds resilience against climate shocks. We've heard a lot during these 2 days about the importance of investing in human capital. We know that building human capital is sequential and cumulative, and the return on investments are greatest in the earliest years. So investing in children is not just the right thing to do from a rights-based perspective, but also from a socioeconomic development perspective. With that, I would like to share a few examples of how UNICEF is working in mix for some of the countries that are present here. In the Kingdom of Morocco, where I've had the great pleasure of serving in the past, monthly child benefits for poor families are now reaching 80% of social protection coverage. It's a marked historic milestone for the country that hosted the February conference. UNICEF has been proud to be supporting this process through technical assistance and benchmarking. In Guatemala, UNICEF has strengthened systems to prevent and respond to sexual and gender-based violence, expanding access to services and information, enhancing early intervention mechanisms, and supporting child survivors' recovery. And essential services like education, health, and clean water. And finally, here in the Philippines, where UNICEF has been a trusted partner for over 75 years, working to protect the rights of every child. UNICEF's holistic approach involves strengthening the system that children rely on, such as health, education, child protection, water, sanitation, and social welfare services, ensuring that the needs are met in an integrated and comprehensive manner. Just last week, UNICEF, along with UNDP, Asian Development Bank, and the World Bank, we were with the Philippine Secretary of Budget and Management and the Department of Finance, where the country presented its public finance reform initiatives and the third round of the Public Expenditure Financial Accountability Assessment, and a world-first child-specific public expenditure financial and accountability assessment, really showing the way in terms of the new type of support that the UN can offer. We have heard the last 2 days that what has gotten countries to middle income status is not what will get them to upper middle income or high income status. The same way at UNICEF, we recognize that what has made us a valuable partner in the past will not necessarily make us a valuable partner in the future. And we hear loud and clear the call of the like-minded group of middle income countries for the need for tailor-made solutions and support. Going forward, through our Global Future Focus and the UNICEF's Business Model Initiative, UNICEF is adapting its program offer to better meet the specific challenges facing countries and the rapidly challenging global context. We aim to support results at scale for children in the most effective and efficient way possible. Specifically for middle-income countries, UNICEF will focus on tailored, equity-focused solutions that mobilize and convene strategic multi-sectoral partnerships, including the private sector, to leverage investment in and financing for children. UNICEF endeavors to strengthen access to timely and quality technical assistance, innovation, and advisory services for child rights and national programs for children. Provide equity analysis, learning, including from implementing catalytic projects, and knowledge management for child rights. Progress for children in middle-income countries is progress for the world. I thank you.
I thank Mr. Nabari for his remarks. I now wish to give the floor to Ms. Zuzana Schwidrowski, the Director of the North Africa Office of the UN Economic Commission for Africa, to be followed by FAO.
Thank you, Chair. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor to be here with you today at the high-level conference on breaking new grounds towards strategic plan of actions for middle-income countries. This event demonstrates the key role of the middle-income countries play in the changing global landscape. Africa's middle-income countries are a diverse group with common goals in striving to reach sustainable development goals and improve well-being of their populations. In 2024, 31 out of 54 African countries were middle-income countries. They are making significant contributions to the continent's economic and social progress. However, today most African middle-income countries struggle to reach sustainable development targets, including Sustainable Development Goal 1, eradicating poverty. In 2024, about 40% or almost 200 million people of Africa's poor resided in MICs. When the fact that the extreme poverty in richer countries occurs at higher levels of income than in poor countries is considered, then about half of African MIC population lived in poverty in 2024. Within countries, inequality is another major challenge. Income inequality is particularly high in middle-income countries in Southern Africa. Your Excellencies, dear colleagues, the middle-income trap is a key challenge, including in Africa. Since the global financial crisis in 2009, only one African country, Seychelles, reached high income status, but two, Equatorial Guinea and Mauritius, slipped back. The South Africa G20 presidency and African Union seat at the G20 provide a timely opportunity to put the challenge on the agenda and bring African perspective to potential solutions. Your Excellencies, with the livability of the planet being threatened, fast, comprehensive, and far-reaching mitigation and adaptation measures are called for. To adapt them, African MICs need to develop human capital and adopt new technologies to support new sectors that can drive climate-resilient growth. At the same time, just and equitable green transition is needed. To reach that, MICs have to have access to concessional financing at scale alongside private funding. Dear colleagues, the fairness and the scale of flows of concessional finance to middle-income countries has been a subject to major international policy debates. Today's Africa MICs face double bind. Given then relatively high middle-income status, they need to undertake significant investment to prevent future downturns in income levels from huge and negative impacts of climate change, to which they contributed only marginally. However, Africa MIC's access to climate-proof payment costs have eroded their policy space. Yet the existing debt restructuring frameworks often exclude MICs, and this needs to be rectified. Your Excellencies, despite the development progress achieved, many African middle-income countries rely too much on production of export of primary products. The absence of meaningful industrialization in Africa, including in many MICs, is a missed opportunity. Specific industrial policies worked in Asia, and some of them can be applied. The AFCFTA provides new opportunity, and the key question is how its implementation can contribute to the emerging of intra-African value chains with strong backward linkages, and how can it help all African countries, including MICs, to integrate into global value chains in more advanced stages. Ladies and gentlemen, this event income countries and in creating middle-income countries, including in Africa, can play a critical role in creating peaceful, prosperous, and integrating Africa and the world. We are sure that this event will contribute to multilateral cooperation that we all agree on. And in the short, middle, and long term, we look forward to seeing the initiative of this conference to bear fruit. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your remarks. I wish to give the floor now to Mr. Lionel Dabadi, the country representative to the Philippines of the Food and Agriculture Organization.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Honorable Secretary Enrique Manalo, ladies and gentlemen, Excellencies. The Food and Agriculture Organizations of the United Nations congratulates the like-minded group of middle-income countries and the government of the Philippines for the successful organization of this very important conference. FAO wishes to highlight part of their populations. As economies transitions to middle-income status, the focus often shifts to other fast-growing sectors with established investment models. However, agriculture must remain a pillar of rural development and incomes, requiring increased investment in production, value addition, and export-oriented opportunities. Developing increasingly efficient agriculture sectors as agriculture methods become more and more technology-driven, and it helps maintain affordable food price, thereby improving the real income of the entire population. Acknowledging that there is no one-size-fits-all solutions for transforming agri-food systems, FAO commends the efforts of the like-minded groups in advocating for more efficient, context-specific approaches tailored to the needs and priority of each country. FAO further underscores the importance of strengthening South-South and triangular cooperation as a key means to accelerate agri-food system transformation in middle-income countries. In support of these activities, FAO is implementing initiatives such as the Hand-in-Hand initiative, which helps countries develop bankable investment proposals to modernize agriculture, to strengthen the value chains and leverage private and public resources. Likewise, through the One Country, One Product, One Priority Product initiative, fostering value additions, market access, and sustainable agri-food development. Ladies and gentlemen, this year, we celebrate the 80th anniversary of the United Nations, but also the 80th anniversary of FAO. And I would like to warmly invite middle-income countries to actively join the celebrations that will be organized at our headquarters in Rome during the week of the World Food Days on 16 October 2025. In closing, rest assured that FAO stands ready to continue its support to the middle-income countries in advancing sustainable.
Thank you very much for your remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, it appears we've exhausted the list of speakers. Is there any demand? So therefore, just let me say a few remarks before we leave this item of the general debate. First, I wish to thank very much Excellencies, dear colleagues and friends. Well, first of all, for sticking to my request earlier to keep statements limited to 3 to 4 minutes. I think everyone did admirably well, so we've been able to conclude in good time with everyone being able to speak. But most importantly, I truly appreciate and wish to thank you very much for all your for the cause and objectives of the middle-income countries. I'm sure all of us listened closely to the many issues that were raised this morning, and I believe these issues will require our continued attention and our action, and also further cooperation. Among others, issues such as equitable access to development financing and cooperation for mix, developing metrics beyond, for example, the GDP, managing debt burdens, bridging the digital divide, promoting a rules-based and free and open multilateral trading system, enhancing social inclusion, and climate action were mentioned, among others. These are all largely reflected in the Makati Declaration, which we hope to adopt this morning, and this will indeed reinforce the need for a strategic program of action for MICs. So rest assured that as chair of the like-minded group, the Philippines will always work closely with all of your delegations and agencies in a spirit of partnership and friendship, and we will rely heavily on your continued support and guidance. So with those words, I wish to conclude the general debate of the high-level segment, and again, thank you very much. I now wish to proceed to our next item, which is the adoption of the Makati Declaration on Middle-Income Countries, which I hope everyone has a copy with them this morning. This declaration, of course, was drafted by the like-minded group, and it is the process of intensive negotiations among delegations in New York. And I wish to sincerely thank the morning. Just very briefly, the declaration has 53 paragraphs encompassing our shared vision and sustainable development. It builds on and seeks to implement the Rabat Declaration we adopted under the chairmanship of Morocco last year. The Makati Declaration includes key messages, priorities, and strategic directions that have emerged from our discussions. It recognizes the unique development challenges, aspirations, and potential, and calls for renewed global partnerships that are responsive to our evolving needs. So as we adopt the Makati Declaration, let us solidify our collective resolve to break new ground, also to close development gaps, and ensure that no middle-income country is left behind. So I take it then that we can adopt the Makati Declaration, and therefore the Makati Declaration is hereby adopted. So once again, thank you very much, colleagues, for your contributions this morning, and of course our colleagues for having drafted this excellent document. So with that, I therefore adjourn our meeting this morning, and again, thank you very much.
We would like to kindly request Excellencies and all heads of national and UN delegations to remain in the venue for a few more minutes and come on stage for an official photo of the high-level segment.
Where? All of us? Are we all going to sit there? Huh? I want to.
Many congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. Well done. Congratulations. Good, sir. Congratulations, Excellency.
Congratulations. Amazing. Very good. Very good.
Once again, we would like to kindly request all heads of national and UN delegations to please come in front for a photo opportunity of the high-level segment.